Well, good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome to the WLBB Community Voice Program, our show, brought to you by Sandra Health System. You're listening this morning on, I forgot the call letters. I was about to say KISS 102.7, but no. News Talk 1330, AM and FM 106.3. And also this morning, we are on Facebook Live. You can probably already see who my lovely young guest is this morning. We'll tell you what she'll be talking about here in just a little bit. Estimated 13%, I believe this is a stat, this is right, you told me last week. 13% of Carroll County is aged 65 and older, and I imagine that nowadays the baby boomers they're living better, so they probably don't have the same needs at age 65. That
I wouldn't say they're living better. They probably abuse themselves more than some of the other people have. You take an 85-year-old.
Can I introduce you first?
Sure,
before you
go
start?
ahead.
All right. This is Sandra Morris. She is a founding member of the Carroll County West Georgia Council on Aging. I mean, she started it all up by herself when she was like 12 years old.
No. I followed some good leaders.
Okay. But you've been a part of that group for, we'll say a couple years.
Yes,
anyway,
many years.
Since the
41 to be exact.
You and I talked earlier this week about a grant you're working on that's going to help with seniors falling. And it was fascinating to learn the ways that you can help them and, prevent from falling and I guess help their injuries and offer some classes. But I said, again, a lot of our population here, a lot of our listeners are close to that senior category, if not past it. So I thought we could get some good information out to them this morning. Sandra Morris, again, our guest on this morning's Community Voice. Let's talk about that grant first. So falling seniors, I mean, you can imagine, you would think that, of course, there's that potential for falling. But this grant, I guess, tell us how that came about and how it can actually help our area seniors.
Well, I have a small grant writing company, and I see lots of things that come up on the Internet. And it caught my eye real quickly when this came up. It is a federal grant. And let's back up a minute here. The Council on Aging is actually a nonprofit, and our mission is to assess what the community needs. And one of the things that we identified, so many people fall. When they fall, they break an arm, they break a hip, they end up in the hospital, they end up in rehab. And, it's just a huge cost. It's a huge pain to the family, a huge pain to the senior person. I mean, and people, don't realize a lot of these falls could be prevented. So when this grant came up on the Internet, I saw it, I immediately knew that this was something we in Carroll County need. I got to looking around, and the more I searched, the more I found. There are over 300,000 people in the United States, 65 years and older, who are actually hospitalized for hip fractures. Just because you fall, you don't have to break your hip. I didn't know that until I did a lot of research.
Well,
there's ways to fall.
Okay, good. I said they're not trying to break their hip when they fall.
No, goodness gracious, no. Nobody wants to break a hip.
But I do remember, growing up, I think my grandmother, she had an accident, and I think it was just something common we heard. Well, they fell and broke their hip and had to go through that surgery. But, do you know those ways? Can we give out some secrets over the radio that could be helpful?
And there are a lot of resources available. The problem we have is being rural is we don't know how to get that information out to Grandma. We don't know how to get it out to Grandpa. People like that. When we go in and we visit Grandma and Grandpa, we need to assess the situation. If your house is cluttered and everything's piled around Grandma's chair, declutter. Because she hears the phone ring, and it's probably still sitting on the table over there, and she gets up to go run and get it, trips over the cat, trips over the stack of books, the newspapers, or maybe she's going to turn up the radio so she can hear the obituaries. She needs a clear trail to get to things like that. There's just lots of things that you can do. One of the things that fascinated me recently when I started doing research was I saw on the Internet ways to fall, and it was actually a video of if you see you're going to fall, this is a way to do it. Stay bent. Don't tighten up. Don't try to stop, really. If you know you're falling, go ahead and fall. Don't be rigid. And the biggest thing, and a lot of old people don't have a good cushion. They don't have a lot to fall on. Try not to fall on a bone. Try to fall where you've got some meat. And don't necessarily try to catch, because elbows, shoulders. Another common fracture is the collarbone. Collarbone's a really unusual bone. We all have them, and when it's broken, it's very painful. But there are ways to fall, and just protect your head. We've recently had some real tragedies in our community from head injuries. So hold your head forward if you're going to fall. I I've learned some of these things just, in the just last week or so. So we want to have a program where we can go around, send some of our representatives, maybe even hire somebody to do some of this. We want to use some of our local resources as partners in the community to teach people how to fall, because you can prevent some of these injuries.
Before at the earlier part of this program, before I interrupted you, you were making a very, very good point. I mean, I came in here thinking that, okay, we have a larger population. People are living longer these days, so you're going to have more people who are 65 and older. So I'm thinking, okay, but everybody's living better because they're going to the doctor, they're eating better, things like that. But you did make a kind of a valid point. Let's not bust on the flower children too much, but I think that's what you're suggesting.
Well, I am. We have been very blessed across the nation, not just in West Georgia. There's a generation that had an opportunity to get good jobs. They made good money. And they celebrated a lot of that. A lot of them used alcohol. A lot of them used other things. Just things that they've not necessarily taken as good a care of themselves as they should have. Use of some of these things may have made their bones brittle. And I'm not a doctor. I've observed a lots of things. If you're going to drink even a glass of wine, be careful. You can fall, you can get in a car wreck, you can get broken up real easy. We're going to stress in this program lots of things, not just Grandma and Grandpa who's 80. We're going to try to get some of the younger people, the people who are 65, that category, and help educate them. They can be a lot of help to the older generation, and we got a lot of older people in our community, a lot. We could probably learn a lot from some of them.
I'm sure. You think about it, social issues and health issues, I think, are probably what we could primarily focus on this morning, and that's what comes to mind for me. But, is any kind of estimation on how many of that 13% may be living alone? Because that's probably one of the bigger social issues.
I have some numbers on that, but there are a lot of people. And the census, it was done 2010. It's time to do it again.
Yeah,
so a lot of these figures are very old. I personally know a lot of people who've moved into this area to be closer to kids. A lot of those are either, mom or dad or somebody who's moved because one of the spouses died. But there are a lot of people who do live alone. We did have a gentleman who brought that to our attention about the people that live alone. They may fall and nobody find them for 2 days. If they can't get to a telephone, nobody visits them. I don't have the exact numbers on any of that. But that's some things that we've got to do. We've got to assess our community. We've got to figure out who needs the help. And we've got to find a way to motivate them. We have got more resources in this community than any community I know, but people just don't know about them. Most people my age maybe don't know what mama or daddy could get until a tragedy happens, till they break a hip, till somebody dies, till something major happens. We've got to find a better way to get the information out, motivate people to use the information. All the information in the world is no good if you don't use it.
Do you think most parents or most people age 65 and older, when their children or their family decides, hey, it might be time to go, hang out in the community rather than living out here in the rural part of town all by yourself? Is it a difficult conversation?
It's a very difficult community. Very, very. It's hard. If somebody's lived in the same place for 30 plus years, it's home. One of the things I've also identified is we do have a lot of people with attachment to things. Things are important, and our generation, my generation, is a prime example. Our generation had good jobs. We were able to buy motorcycles. We were able to buy boats. We were able to buy a collection of dishes that's on the wall. People have, a hard time separating themselves sometimes. Downsizing to an apartment can be not just physically hard, but mentally, emotionally. And if there's any dementia already setting in, children don't understand. They really don't understand how difficult it is. It's a separation problem. But this program, it could address a lot of different things. The Council on Aging is not prepared to do this alone. I don't care how much money they threw at us. We are not prepared. It's going to be a tough grant to write. It's going to be very competitive. I believe there are only going to be 10 in the United States. So it's going to be nothing short of a miracle if we do. But I do believe in miracles. I do think that if we can put together the need that I know, we can sell this thing. And we've got a lot of people we've got to contact. Tanner Medical has done a wonderful job stressing the need for better nutrition, the need for better habits, everything. So we're definitely going to be calling in any medical people that can help us. Carroll County is going to be a big partner in this. We're also going to ask some of the utility companies to come in and be partners. And
by being partners, you mean financially, or are they going to be able to offer things that they're doing to help the community? So, we want to continue that.
With the utility companies, I want them to be our eyes and our ears. Mm-hmm. Now, they used to read your meters every month, when they were in the community. And I know Carroll EMC years ago.
Well, now they can do it from the car. They don't even get out around the house.
But they can still see things. They can tell if the newspaper hasn't picked up, if it's on the porch or in the driveway now, I think. And those are things they could report. But Carroll EMC is a wonderful community partner, and I think they will be more than willing to, to talk to us. Let us get some numbers. I know in the past that they have found people. They've reported things where people just, thought something had happened. If they see something strange, they could report it. And I think Georgia Power will be more than willing. The biggest fear I have is that we're not going to be able to assemble enough information. But I think we can. We have a few months to do this grant, and I think when we start talking to public safety, the fire department has always been a great resource. When somebody falls within the city, that's the first call that comes out usually is the 911 alerts the fire department. They'll come and help get you up. People really don't understand. Just because somebody falls, you don't go pick them up. They may have something broken. You may hurt them. And that's another thing we're going to have to educate people is if somebody has fallen, don't necessarily just go jerk them up, put them in a chair. Let somebody who knows what they're doing figure out the condition that they're in.
Sandra Morris is a founding member of the Carroll County West Georgia Council on Aging, still a board member with that group, and we'll take our first break and come back and talk some more with her. I know they had a big shindig coming up.
We have a big one.
Next month, and we'll talk about that. 8:44 right now. We'll come back with about 15 minutes left in our program, Community Voice, brought to you by Tanner Health System here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3, and this morning on Facebook Live. We'll be back after this.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org. or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
And welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program, our show brought to you by Tanner Health System. I'm your host this morning, Colin Worthington. Our guest is Sandra Morris. She's with the Carroll County West Georgia Council on Aging. Very interesting first segment. If you did miss it, be sure and look it up on our podcast later on today at newstalk1330.com. Talking about the elderly community here in Carroll County. Sandra's dug up some numbers that we might present here sometime during this segment. But I do want to mention the West Georgia Council on Aging. You host events at least 2 or 3 times a year for senior citizens to get together and mingle and do the Watusi, and you got one coming up in February for Valentine's Day, right?
Yes, we always start the year off with a big Valentine Fellowship. This year it's going to be February the 8th. It's always the Thursday before the special holiday, and it's going to be a big one. We brought George Britt Band back. Dancing's another good way to keep from falling. It helps keep your balance. It keeps you exercising, keeps you in good shape. But George Britt Band is always a favorite among our seniors, and so we welcome anybody from the West Georgia area, not just Carroll County. If you can hear my voice, you're welcome to come if you're a senior citizen. We're going to crown a king and queen, and Milltown Music Hall is going to be there to crown our king and queen. It's going to be so much fun. I mean, we've got so much good stuff planned. West Georgia Cardiology is hosting it again. We're going to have Chick-fil-A for lunch, thanks to Dr. Charlie Rouse. He's a wonderful resource for our community, and he does a great job spreading his knowledge and taking care of people. So we really love Dr. Rouse. Got a lot of other sponsors, Carroll EMC and Walmart, Graddick Communications, the Barnes Store, Walgreens will be there with their beautiful red bags. And we'll have about 25 vendors there that will be sharing information with you. They may have handouts. They may have peppermint, who knows. But it's always a great educational experience. And, it's fun. It's good for you. But you'll get to see a lot of people, a lot of friends that you see when we do these events. We do them in May. We'll have another one coming up. And then, as usual, we'll always have one the Thursday before Thanksgiving.
Now, you guys do these 2-3 times a year for
Three
these
times
events.
a year.
I imagine it's nice to see the people who were there last time come back, the next time and see those familiar faces. But I imagine there are times when we have this event and somebody who was there last time isn't there, and that's got to bum you out a little bit. I mean, you have to wonder, right? Me being there for 41 years, there are faces, and every year I know that face won't be there. My mother was one last November that was not there. And so, those are things that help you, though. They really help you when you get together with your friends. You realize that you do need to appreciate these fun times and remember the good memories. That's all you've got is the good memories there of that. So it will be a fun event. I would tell you that if you need information, you can contact Danielle Jenkins at the Carrollton Senior Center. You can contact just about any senior center in the area is going to know about this. I do have some flyers, and you can contact me. My phone number is 678-378-0985 if you need information. But there's lots of people in this group. The Council on Aging is comprised of local human service agencies, civic clubs, senior citizen organizations, churches, clubs, anybody that's interested in serving senior citizens, we welcome you. And I'd love to have some new blood on our group. Maybe we have some new blood on the phone right now. We do have a phone call here on line
sounds
one,
good.
and let's see if it works. Hey, good morning. You're on the Community Voice.
Good morning, Coffin and Sandra.
Good morning.
This is regular listener, Callan. I appreciate the program today because I didn't realize how serious the fall was until I had one a year ago at Christmas and still having issues with it. So the information that hopefully will be forthcoming and how to prevent falls sounds very exciting to me. So I just want to applaud Sandra for all the work that she does, and hopefully we'll be able to prevent people like me from having falls. And it's especially those who live alone. That's a very scary part of it.
Yeah, Carolyn, tell us about the recovery for that, if you don't mind.
Well, it was 2016. I fell backwards and fractured a vertebra in my neck, had a concussion. I cracked two vertebrae, two discs in my lower back, and then I ended up having to have shoulder surgery as a result of it. So it has been a long process. I was released from therapy this week for one part of that, so that was a blessing. It's
Congrats.
been a very long process, Colin. But I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Well, we're glad that you're getting back to normal, right?
Yes, I am.
Are you going to be going?
So grateful for that. Yes, I am.
Are you going to go to the Valentine Fellowship?
Well, I'd like to. I won't be doing any dancing, but
But you'll get some Chick-fil-A and get
I'd like
some
to come. I always love the program. Sandra and Danielle and everyone does such a great job.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely keep you posted on that when that grant gets developed, and then when it becomes official and they win it, as they always do. We'll be sure and let everybody know that.
Perfect. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you,
Thank
Carolyn.
you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Have a good morning. We'll go and take our final break right now. It's 8:50. We'll come back with about 8.5 minutes on our program. We'll wrap up our discussion with Sandra Morris with the Carroll County West Georgia Council on Aging. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3, and on Facebook Live. We'll be back after this.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
Alrighty, welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice Program. Our show brought to you by our friends at Tanner Health System here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3, and Facebook Live this morning, the News Talk 1330 Facebook page. Before the program, I was telling you that we're on FM now. You didn't know that.
No, I did not know that.
So we need to remind everybody.
That's
probably
right.
Need to say, I don't think we've said enough on this program. We say it on the news throughout the day. I think most of our station IDs mentioned that. But, it's a better signal in certain places. So if you hadn't had a chance to check that out, go ahead and program 106.3 on your car stereo. Our guest this morning, Sandra Morris. She is with the Carroll County West Georgia Council on Aging. Primarily today we're talking about seniors and how they deal with falls and how to prevent them. And the Senior Council on Aging is actually filling out forms for a grant that they hope will benefit our community pretty well. You pulled out some stats during the break about falls. I mean, I don't know, statewide, nationwide in our county?
Yes, and we're not filling out forms. We're writing Carroll County's story. That's what we're doing. People are very deceived about, they think I fill out forms like income tax and grant.
I don't think so.
It's more like writing a life story. But anyway, it's fun and I love doing it. But one of the things that I've discovered is the cost of falls among older adults. The average fall cost for a fall at a hospital is $30,000. You know, we're talking about medical costs, we're talking about doctors, x-rays, fixing it, everything. But you don't even think about your daughter's got to take off from work and go take you to therapy. Your son's got to do this. Your granddaughter's doing it. There are a lot of costs associated with falls that nobody even thinks about. You know, lost wages. Somebody has to stay with you. Maybe they have to hire a babysitter, or something. There's just lots of things that people don't think about until you're faced with it. And every year, millions of people are treated for falls in hospitals that are over 65. Over 800,000 patients a year are hospitalized because of a fall injury, and often it is a broken hip or a head injury. Head injuries are very, very dangerous. I mean, they are so dangerous. People need to protect their head when they fall. And if you're doing anything like riding a bicycle, wear your helmet. They have some really cute helmets out there. So, there's lots of costs that people don't even, figure in.
Part of that training for falls, I think just be aware of your surroundings. And I would think at some point, if you feel fragile at all or you feel imbalanced, you'd want to be conscious about that all the time.
Sure, and you need to tell somebody. Yeah. If you're getting dizzy, tell your children. It may be your medication. You could be dehydrated. Maybe you're not drinking enough water. Maybe you're drinking too much coffee. It's making you nervous.
Well, or too much water and too much coffee. You have to go to the bathroom a lot, too.
That's right. There are a lot of things that you don't even think about. When you live alone, sometimes you do things and you don't even realize how they affect you. But we're going to include some classes on balance. There are some very, very simple exercises that you can do that will help you with your balance. Hearing, they're just, the more research I've done on this, it's just amazing me how much simple things can help you and maybe keep you from falling.
Now, Carroll County West Georgia Council on Aging, it's a nonprofit group. Everybody's a volunteer or a board member within that group, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. How do you guys meet monthly?
We meet the third Tuesday of every month, except the months we have an event like February, May, and November. We meet at 2 o'clock at the Carrollton Senior Center. Great location for us. We try to talk about what we need to do, but there are people that are constantly working, constantly doing things, even if they're not at the meeting, assessing the needs especially. It's not something that we can do in one meeting. We depend on our sheriff's department very, very much because they can also let us know when there's a need in the community. And we've done some programming together with them, especially with frauds and scams and all that kind of stuff. The Carroll County Triad Group, which was started by Sheriff Langley probably in 2007 or 8 or something, is a very active group still. They do a lot of training with their officers to make sure they know the resources that we have. And that's another thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be reviewing our resource guide that was printed in 2000 and oh gosh, I forget what year. It's a nice book we've given them out, and I think most of you seniors have one. But it is time to revise that group, and I would urge anybody that has some free time that could help me make phone calls to review the information. We're going to be verifying everything in the old book, coming up with new stuff, to call me, because I could definitely need your help.
I imagine some seniors have gone through that book, and maybe they know some places that aren't open anymore, or that they could help you out and tell you.
And phone numbers change pretty often. Names change. We have new business. Thank goodness we have a lot of new business in Carroll County. And even the 3-county area, Heard, Harrelson, and Carroll, is what the Council on Aging serves. So
we have about 2 minutes left in the program. We were talking about resources. Is there a resource that's underused that maybe more people should know about, you think?
Oh, probably the Council on Aging. I mean, really, I will average getting 15 calls a week from people in the community who need to know a phone number. And, we don't get phone books anymore. I know you young folks don't care. You have your phones. But if the internet ever goes down, you're lost. I want a phone book. I still have my last edition that was printed. Phone books they're disappearing. If you've got one, you better hide it. But you can call me anytime. I really, people will call the sheriff's department and want to know all kind of things. And they're a great resource, but it is, not really their expertise, but they're great to help anyway. Your senior centers, you need to go to a senior center. You need to be connected to senior centers.
How many of those do we have in the region? We have 3 or 4 in Carroll County.
We have Carrollton, Villa Rica, Temple. We have one in Bowden, and we have a small one that's operational in Whitesburg 1 day a week, I think. We also have a beautiful one in Bremen. We have Tallapoosa and Buchanan. In Heard County, there's one in Franklin. But you need to hook up with those places. If you don't do anything but go once, twice a month, stay connected. There are a lot of things going on. There's energy assistance if you have a high electric bill or heat bill, whether it's gas or electric. You can get some money for that. There are just great resources. I think our AARP is another great resource that you need to be hooked up with because they know about a lot of things going on also.
Sandra, thank you for coming out this morning.
Oh, thank you for letting me come out.
And we wish you the best of luck with that grant and keep us posted on that when it comes through, and then we can
certainly
talk much more about that.
But don't forget the Valentine's
That's
party.
Right. We'll talk about that, too, in the coming week. We'll remind everybody. But Sandra Morris with the Carroll County, West Georgia Council on Aging, our guest this morning. If you missed any of the program, be sure and visit our website, newstalk1330.com. Visit the website anyway, but you can find the podcast there. Again, newstalk1330.com.
Thank
Cloudy?
you.
Absolutely. Cloudy right now, but it's going to get sunny later on. Be safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you on Monday.